So the last time I showed up to tackle this property, I think they thought this Ventrac and Tough Cut, they thought it was a little skeptical. They were expecting to see something big, a big tractor, big bush hog, but when I got done, they were impressed, and they called me back again this year to tackle this property. So we got about 2.5 acres or so that we're gonna knock out, maybe close to 3 acres. I've been here before. I don't think there's anything that we can tear up and get into on the Ventrac, but you never know. Very thankful for the repeat business, and for you guys that have not seen the Ventrac and Tough Cut before, comment below, let me know what you think of this machine. Do you think it looks a little skeptical, or do you think it can handle this overgrown property? And for you guys returning, you guys know what the Ventrac can do. Time to quit talking and put this machine to work. So ever since I've bought this Ventrac, and every single job I've went out on like this, there's always been a risk. And you look at it and, you know, in one way you can think, man, I should really be careful here. I shouldn't risk getting out here and doing these jobs because of this. And then on the other hand, you're like, I've got to do it. I've got to get out here and I've got to tackle it. You see the overgrown properties, you see the shape that these properties are in, and it's almost like, you know, it's probably going to happen. It may or may not, but it probably will. But at the same time, you like do everything you can to avoid it, but you just go out there and do it anyways, because you look at the property, you look at the shape that it's in, you know what it could look like when you finish it with the Ventrac and Tough Cut. And so you just go out there anyways and you risk it all. So it doesn't happen every single time, but when it does happen, man, I instantly regret it. I'm like, what was I thinking? What was I doing? I knew this was going to happen. And so it's just a risk, man. It's a risk every single time you get out there. So it'll be interesting to see what you guys think are the risks when you do a job like this. But I'm going to tell you the number one risk. First, I'm going to tell you the fear that I've had ever since I've owned the Ventrac, and that is running into some yellow jackets. You know, you're out here, you're without a cab, and the whole time I'm going back and forth. When I first started, that's all I would think about. It's like, man, I'm risking getting out here, knocking this out, in hopes that I won't get into yellow jackets, I won't get stung multiple times. There's been a few times where I have run over nest and I've come into ground bees, yellow jacket, wasps, and thankfully I've never been stung. I don't know how it's happened, but it's like I run over it the first time. The second time when I'm coming back, I usually will catch it and then I can swing out around it and just kind of figure out how to manage that particular area. But for the most part, I've never gotten stung by yellow jackets, wasps, hornets, anything like that. So that was like a huge fear for me anytime I bring out the Ventrac, but that's not what I'm talking about here. It's something different, and it's something that lasts a lot longer than a bee sting, a wasp sting. Although I'm pretty allergic to them, I don't have to go to the hospital or anything like that. I got stung recently while I was mowing and doing some trimming just on a regular weekly lawn. I did get stung by a wasp. My hand swelled up really, really bad. It looked awful. It stayed that way for 3 or 4 days. Hurt pretty bad. But the risk that I take every single time I do a job like this, see that growth back there? See everything like along the fence line, along that tree line? It's all grown up. Anytime you get into an area where there's a lot of trees, a lot of woods, the open fields, not so much. But when you get around these trees, everything changes, and that's because there's one thing that likes to grow in these areas, and that is poison ivy. On top of the poison ivy, there's something else, and that is Virginia creeper, and I am super allergic to that stuff. I don't know anyone else that's allergic to that, but when I get into that stuff, I really break out. A few years ago, I actually had to go to the hospital, get some shots, get some steroids, because I had it covered all over my arms, all over my body. I remember it was 4th of July, just a few years ago, and I got that stuff all over me. Well, guess what? On this job, same thing happened. Check this out. Got into some poison ivy, and this is what it looked like. So here it is a week later, and man, running the Tough Cut and all that mess, sometimes you get into stuff that, yeah, poison ivy, Virginia creeper, I'm allergic to it, and it's tore me up. So I'm hoping it clears up soon, but I'm like, the next job, I have several jobs to tackle coming up, and I'm like, what am I gonna do, man? I don't want to get into this again. Look at that. Awful, man. But Virginia creeper, poison ivy, it does a number on me, and I try to stay out of it as much as I can. I try to wear long sleeves, try to wash off as soon as I get done with the job, but it never fails, man. I'll always get it. Always. What about you guys? Are you allergic to any of that stuff? Poison ivy, poison oak, Virginia creeper? Apparently I am. Man. So, I want to know, guys, is it worth it? Is it worth the risk? Comment below. Let me know. If you made it this far, that means you're probably a fan of the channel, fan of the Ventrac. So, do me a favor. Comment below poison ivy. If you could do that for me, that'll let me know that you're a fan of the channel or fan of the Ventrac. Appreciate it so much. Man, what a job. Just finished tackling all this overgrown mess. This job was a whole lot easier than it was last time I was in here. I kind of knew what to expect. I didn't think I was going to hit anything sticking up or anything out in the field, so it allowed me to move through the field a lot quicker too. The Ventrac and the Tough Cut survived this one. We didn't hit anything, didn't damage anything. That's always a good thing. Anytime you get in, you do a job, you don't break a belt, you don't break a blade, you don't break a bolt or tear something up. It's gonna be a lot more profitable. Anyways, the Ventrac and Tough Cut held up, and it'll live to see another job. Appreciate you guys taking time to watch. Drop a comment below, let me know what you thought about this one, but I appreciate the continued support. Have a good day, we'll catch you in the next one, and as always, hey, God provides.